Hey, nurse practitioners, are you wondering how much it costs to start a private practice? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down those numbers for you. This is Dr. Lisa with Private Practice Made Easy, your turn to lead. All right, so let's start with the basics. You have to have a business structure. So you've got to file an LLC and an EIN or a PLLC and an EIN. So you can do that yourself, which would cost about $100. Now you can hire an attorney, which that's going to cost $500, maybe even $1,500. And you can use like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer, which is going to cost about $300-400. So it kind of depends on if you're going to do it yourself, hire a third party, have your CPA or an attorney do the paperwork for you. So $100 to up to $1,500, which is really ridiculous because it's really easy to file an LLC and do your EIN. So to keep things low, you want to probably do it yourself. If you need help with it, contact me and I will help you file an LLC. All right. The next thing is your NPI number. Totally free. You have to register. But remember, when you get your NPI, you have to have an address. So just like with your DEA, you have to have an address, which in my coaching program, I teach you a very economic way to get a license, which is through a virtual office that doesn't look like a virtual office. All right, so NPI, totally free. Next, we have malpractice insurance. With malpractice insurance, it depends on what you're going to be doing. So if you're just doing psychotherapy, it's going to be a lot less than med management or with aesthetics or with TMS or with anything that's invasive. So that is going to range, but average is going to be about $1,200-1,500 a year. It could go up to about $2,500 a year for the malpractice insurance. Next is your office or telehealth setup. This is where most of your cost is. If you're going to have an office, well, that can cost you a lot each month. What I recommend when you get started is to have a virtual office or rent a space only on the days that you use it. If not, your rent could be $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a month, depending on where you're at in the amount of space. But a virtual office might cost you $100 a month, which would be very low. And if you're just doing a telehealth, then you don't need an office. All you need is your EMR and your virtual telehealth platform. So that's really where your cost is going to be, is having a physical location. All right, next we have your website and domain. With AI right now, oh my gosh, it's so easy that you can do it yourself, and I can help you with that. Websites, it just depends on an estimation from $500 to $1,500 for the whole setup. But right now with AI, we can do it for a couple $100. We can do your logo for absolutely free. Yes, I said your logo, absolutely free, with all the AI software that is out there. Again, I can help you with that in my coaching program. Next, your EMR. Now, this is a huge expense, especially if you're going to scale to a group. So if you're planning on going from private practice, just you solo, to a group practice, you really need to consider your expenses for an EMR because it can add up very quickly. If it's just you, it's going to be about $200 a month. But when you start adding people, that can easily, you start getting 3-4 people in there, almost $1,000 a month for your EMR. So you want to look at EMR systems that have integration with med management so that you can do your medications from your EMR and it's integrated, and that you also have a all-in-one system where you can do your telehealth. So you don't have to pay for another platform unless you plan on doing Zoom, which honestly, you have to pay for Zoom if you're getting a HIPAA compliant, which you have to have. So look at that for your EMR and cut cost with an all-in-one system with your EMR. All right. Another big expense, besides if you have a brick and mortar type of in office, is going to be billing and credentialing. This can be a huge expense, but there are ways around it. There are places that you can, if you're just doing solo, you can go to Headway, you can go to Grow Therapy, and they will actually do the credentialing for you absolutely free. You don't have to do anything. Now, they're going to take a chunk of your money when you have your visits, but if you want to get in it and ease into it with low costs, then you're going to want to use like Headway or Grow Therapy. They'll do all the credentialing and they do the billing. Well, I shouldn't say absolutely free, but the credentialing is. And on the back end, when you start seeing patients, they do take some of the profit out for billing. But let me tell you, billing is expensive. You can pay 5, 6, 7, 8% on hiring a biller, or contracting out a biller. So you're going to have that expense anyway. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons with that. But that's a huge expense. Now, if you have medical supplies, if you're doing aesthetics, this can really add up, especially if you're doing like Botox or fillers, because you have to have an actual contract. So the contract is usually you have to buy a limited amount, okay? So you have an amount that you have to buy every month. So that can be expensive. If you're doing TMS, that is a huge cost. TMS can cost anywhere from $125,000 to $500,000, depending on what equipment. But the reimbursement's really good for TMS, really, really good. Like the reimbursement can be $300 per visit, and if you're doing 30 visits or 35 visits, you can do the math. So it will pay for itself, but there is a lot of issues that you have to consider in regards to your patient being compliant and coming in each day. But TMS is a huge expense if you're talking about medical equipment for a psychiatry or a mental health type of practice. All right, phone lines. Phone lines are pretty reasonable. There are lots of options for you. I would say $25 to $75 a month. And if you wanted to do Google Voice, that is free. But I would recommend that you don't go with Google Voice. The reason being is because there's a lot of AI coming out that will automatically automate and answer your phone calls, and that will take out of your budget an assistant to answer the calls, which you could save money down the line. So with Google Voice, it doesn't have that capacity to plug in for an AI assistant. So I would avoid Google Voice, and I would go with Ring Central or another virtual phone line, which was going to cost you about $25 to $75 a month. Next, you have bookkeeping and accounting. Now, at first, you can do this by yourself, but once you start, if you grow, especially in a group practice, you're going to want a CPA or accountant or someone, a bookkeeper to do this for you, because it can be very tedious, and you want to make sure that your records are really tight, okay? Fax line. I use SR Fax, which is a online HIPAA compliant fax line, and it is all electronically done. So when the pharmacies want you to do a refill for a medication, they'll just send the fax for the refill for the patient. And it will go right into your virtual fax, and then you get an email as well. Very economically low cost, should I say, like $20 a month for that. All right, next we're going to go into cost in regards to if you have an in-person brick-and-mortar practice. Furniture. I would do a virtual office, and I would do an office that is already furnished. The virtual offices that you have out there, like Lucid, you just pay for the day, and it's already furnished, so you don't have to worry about it. Because if you're going to furnish an office, that's another added expense for furniture. And usually it'll come with a desk or a couch and a chair. It just depends on what kind of setup you want in your office. All right, so I think that broke down the expenses, step-by-step expenses on what you would need to start a private practice. So if you add that all up, a telehealth startup would range from about $3,000 to $7,000. A hybrid is going to range about $4,000 to $8,000. And an in-person practice, a brick or mortar, is going to range from about $10,000 to $25,000 for the startup. So as you can see, very cost effective if you're going to just do a telehealth service. So I hope that encourages you to start your own practice and have freedom to work when you want to work and prevent burnout. If you need help, please reach out to me. I have one-on-one coaching available.